Hey friends, I'm finally getting a chance to come on live today. Sorry it's a little bit late, but if any of you have ever made the mistake of going grocery shopping in a small town when you have something you need to do, you know that you run into everyone you know and that you have to stay and visit with all of your friends at the grocery store. And we live 40 minutes from town, so after I taught at my homeschool co-op today, I stopped at the grocery store and, like I said, ran into everyone I knew and visited for a while, and then drove 40 minutes home and was like, yes, Janelle, it is so true. So we also have a election going on in our county right now, so of course there's all sorts of drama. Good times. But I am able to hop on now, so I know it's kind of late for my East Coast friends, or maybe it's the perfect time because you're getting kids to bed and it's after dinner. My West Coast friends are all like, why is this woman coming on while I'm trying to get dinner on the table? So I'll try to make this quick today, but I'm really excited to have this conversation because it's actually one of my most favorite conversations about raising homestead kids. So I'm going to quickly introduce myself again. Most of you know me, but for those that are popping on for the first time or find this video later, I'm Cody Hanner. I'm the host of the Homestead Education Podcast. I'm also creator of Homestead Science Homeschool Curriculum. And this week I am hosting a Homesteading Kids Challenge in an private Instagram group, but I'm coming on live every day to support everybody in their journey of raising homestead kids. So the challenge has been absolutely wonderful, and I know at this point I'm going to be hosting one again probably monthly because I think it's a really great way to connect and talk about the things that we are dealing with as homestead parents, which is things that a lot of other parents in, I don't know, mainstream society, I guess, are not dealing with. So I want to talk about where we were in life about 3 years ago. It was right after COVID. I was working, I had started doing real estate during COVID. I know, really weird time, but it was actually, kind of lucrative actually at that time because everybody was flocking to North Idaho. So I was busy, but I knew that that was not the job that I wanted to continue to do. So I was launching my homestead business, or my online homestead business at that point. We had our commercial homestead. We'd been raising hogs for a few years. And my real estate business was going pretty well. I was writing my homestead books and I had just launched my podcast, and we're homeschooling our 6 kids. My husband, he's on our local volunteer fire department, which covers about 700 square miles, and there's only about 10 guys on the department, and we have no other fire except for like our state fire department, like if it's a forest fire or something. So like he's busy all the time on medical calls and stuff like that. It's completely volunteer. My husband's also a disabled veteran, which I'll get into that in a minute, which has something to do with this story. So yeah, I am crazy busy trying to, basically run 3 businesses: the real estate, my homestead education, and our farm. I didn't do a lot of the physical stuff with the farm. I mean, of course I'm out there doing stuff, but I handle more of the business and the marketing of our homestead. But then I was trying to write my books. And so I would have to do that at night after everybody went to bed, because I was going from 6 in the morning until 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. And then after everybody went to bed, I was staying up till sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning writing. And at the time, my now 4-year-old was 2 years old. And my 6-year-old was 3 or 4. My husband, because of his injuries in Iraq, his night schedule sometimes is a little off. He has a spinal stimulator, he had a TBI, traumatic brain injury. So sometimes, like, I kind of would always handle the babies at night, and that was just okay. He handled a lot with them during the day. He's a very hands-on dad, so I'm not even taking that away from him. I was very comfortable with being their night person. But when I was staying up sometimes till 2 a.m. writing, and then trying to be up with the babies at night, and then my husband, he wasn't, in the mornings, he has a little bit of a hard time getting going. And the kids were getting up at 7 and heading right up to the barn to do, the older kids, not the little ones. The older kids were heading right up to the barn to do their barn chores, which is, we had, like I said, I call it a commercial homestead. We have 9 sows. We do 350 hogs a year. We have our small dairy herd. We have a small beef herd. We have our chickens. We raise meat birds, huge gardens, small orchard. I mean, we have a lot going on our homestead, and the kids handle the biggest majority of kind of the daily chores on that. And so the kids were getting up at 7. So if the baby woke up at 7, I was also up at 7, sometimes earlier, and I was exhausted. I was literally burning the handle at both ends, and I had no clue how to fix it. And my husband and I mean, we were really talking about it. He definitely had his, he's feeling a little bad. Like, maybe I could try to get up with the babies in the night. He's like, when they wake you up, just wake me up. And I'm like, that, it doesn't work, because I'm still waking up. I'm still waking him up and making sure he's up before I can go back to sleep. And it was just this, like, we just couldn't figure out a solution. And so we started discussing needing to hire a nanny. And, when you're a homeschool family, you're really not wanting to hire a nanny. We really didn't want anyone else in the house. And we live 40 minutes from town. There is a small community where we live, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we were going to be able to find somebody who would be able to come into the house, whether that we discussed maybe like 2 full days or like every day for a few hours, so that I could get my writing done during that time rather than trying to do it in the middle of the night. And, then that also didn't completely make sense because of my real estate schedule. Sometimes I'd get a phone call that somebody wanted to go look at a house, and I'd have to just take off. And so this kind of whole story of all the craziness we had going on in our life, I think that a lot of us have these moments. We all have really crazy lives. And when things just get to the point that one of us or many of us in the household are going, this isn't working anymore, we think that we have to completely overhaul our lives. And that's what we started doing. Like, do we get a nanny? Do we quit? Do I need to quit one of my jobs? Do I need to put off writing my book? Does my husband need to, quit the fire department so that he's not having to run? And that was something that was really important to him, because when he's disabled and can't have a regular job, that's something that really gave him purpose in life. Outside of our homestead and family, not saying that those didn't give him purpose, but when he's always, worked kind of a, being in the military and stuff like that, he wanted something where he was still helping people. And so, we were, how do we make this work without giving up something that's either really important to us or that we actually need to make our ends meet, like one of our jobs? And I think a lot of people get to this point, and, as homesteaders, not only do we have that normal, like, we're trying to maintain jobs, we're trying to handle our children, which I don't even want to use the word handle, because I am so blessed to have my children home with me. But we're homeschooling our kids, a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us. We're also, our kids are still doing 4-H. They're still, some of them are playing sports. They're doing youth group. I mean, we're still encouraging our children to be, active members of their communities. And then we're also trying to run a homestead or a farm that feeds our entire family and possibly a big part of our community. And that is just a lot on our hearts and our palates and our plates. And so my husband and I, we sat down and we tried to come up with a plan, and we were so tired and so stressed out and both feeling like we were taking away from each other that we couldn't come up with a solution that worked for us. And so we said, let's sit down with our kids. We had 4 teenagers at the time. Ranging, we had 2 13-year-olds, I don't even know how old they all were. They were like, we had 4 that were like in that 12 to 18 range, And so we're like, maybe they have some ideas. And that's where I really want to like point it out. Our kids have good ideas. Our kids can help run our homes. Our kids we have raised them and we have trained them to be self-sufficient, to be responsible, to be problem solvers. Use that. Give them purpose in life. Give them something that they can bring to the table, and it's going to make them feel amazing. But I kind of digress. We sat down with our kids, and they came up with such an amazing idea that now, 3 years almost later, is still part of our regular routine. And what it was, and it was literally the simplest thing, and we didn't have to revamp our entire lives. We changed one tiny detail of our life. And that was that our daughter, instead of going to the barn in the morning with the boys, 13-year-old, she would stay back at the house and be there for the little boys when they got up. And during that time, she would pick up the living room if the dogs had made any messes over the night, make sure there was nothing that the little one could get in his mouth. She'd run the vacuum and stuff. But what the deal was, is if the boys took over her chores at the barn, like the teenage boys, that she had to have a good breakfast ready for them, which ended up being perfect because she stays at the house. She makes a nice breakfast for pretty much all the kids, and sometimes my husband and I. She makes a pot of coffee. She runs the vacuum real quick, kind of picks up the house. Sometimes the little boys don't even get up right away, and she gets some alone time, which she loves. Everybody's getting a healthier breakfast, and I get some, maybe about 2 hours extra sleep. But that 2 hours is the best sleep I get, because I know that if the boys get up, especially when they were little, anybody who's followed me for any amount of time knows that our youngest is as feral as they come. And he'd get up at 5 in the morning and try to make himself eggs and caught our kitchen on fire. He, decided he wanted to go fishing at 3 in the morning and got up, gathered up all this stuff, and headed out to our pond. And we have grizzlies on our property. Thank goodness for our livestock guardian dog. We've had to install alarms on our doors. This kid is challenging. So that 2 hours, knowing that I don't have to be on high alert with this kid, that there is somebody up and awake and ready, to deal with him, and that the living room is ready, when I don't have to jump up and be ahead of him to run out there and vacuum the floor and make sure there's nothing he could stick in his mouth, which of course he's 4 now, so he's eating a lot less off the floor. But let's face it, these feral farm kids, they eat some weird stuff. So, I'm not having to be 5 steps ahead of him as much. And it has turned out to be the most perfect solution to our problems. And that was one change that gets me 2 hours of solid sleep in the morning. And sometimes I don't even use all of it, especially now that the boys are getting older. But I can wake up and take a few minutes to check my phone, see if I have any customer service issues I need to deal with before I have all the kids talking to me. My daughter still gets her alone time, which she really enjoys now that she's, pushing 16. Her teenage brothers are out the door. She's not dealing with them. The little boys are sleeping in. She gets her alone time. I get my alone time. Coffee's made. Breakfast is made. And by the time everybody comes back in the door, we're ready to have breakfast together and start our homeschool day. And it has literally been the best change in our life. And it was one tiny change. So, and that our children came up with, our teenagers thought of it. And because they thought of it, they have taken the most ownership in it. You know, the boys are like, we have to make sure we get up in the morning and do a good job and get out the door so that sis has her alone time to get our breakfast made and we're not in her way. And, you know, sis is like, this is my big responsibility that I have to handle. She makes me a grocery list of what she needs for making the breakfasts that she plans. You know, she comes up with new ideas. She's constantly like doing research to think of, you know, new breakfasts that she can make. She creates, you know, she tries to think of ways to save us money. So she's making homemade granola. We do homemade yogurt from the cow. You know, she helps me make the yogurts because this is part of her meal planning. You know, she preps things the night before. Like she takes so much ownership in it that I mean, at this point, I wouldn't even want to take that chore away from her because it gives her like a real purpose in her day. And, you know, the boys, they have their purpose because they're up at the barn, they're feeding, they're milking the cow, and that is their purpose in the day. And then, you know, like I kind of left my husband out of this conversation because, like I said, with his disability, his mornings are hit and miss. Some mornings he's up at the barn working with the boys. Some mornings he's having a hard time, like physically, because of, you know, his spinal stimulator and stuff. Sometimes he's off on a fire call. Sometimes he's out there helping her make breakfast. Sometimes he's just having coffee with me. And it's okay because that's our time that we chose to have together. Like the little boys are sleeping in, Savannah's making breakfast, and him and I get that few minutes together in the morning. And it has been the most peace-creating choice that we made in our life. So, if you guys have these types of moments where you feel like you need to overhaul your whole life, but don't have an answer for it, ask your kids. And if your kids aren't old enough to start making those choices, or even if they are, I'd like to talk to you about the Homesteading Kids community that I've launched this week. It is a community of homesteading parents where we can talk about our challenges on the homestead, our triumphs on the homestead, books that we love, podcasts that we love, amazing things that have happened without the pressures of mainstream social media not understanding what we do on the homestead. I also will be creating the scaffolding of this community. So with all of my research, the questions that I get on the road, the networking of the community that I have, and then we'll be creating this community for you, for what you need to have other homestead parents who get what you're doing and can help you in that lifestyle. So if this is something you're interested in, it is only $9 a month as a founding member if you join before May 1st. After that, it's going to go up to $15 a month. But I'm really trying to keep that price as low as possible just to provide this platform for you and all the amazing information that I'm going to be bringing to you. So if you're interested, go ahead and comment kids and I'll get that link over to you, or you can just go to thehomesteadeducation.com/homesteading-kids-community. Thank you all so much for joining me today. And if you have one of those places in your life that you just can't quite figure out, like I said, ask your kids, but always remember I'm here for you too. Thank you for joining me today.